Yesterday, it was reported that Donald Trump's chronic disregard for and mishandling of vital and sensitive national security secrets prompted officials in the Central Intelligence Agency to extract a human asset from Russia who had been working for the United States in an obviously covert capacity.
But then you found out this is just more fake news from CNN.
The reporting there is factually wrong.
Well, some years ago, CNN hired former Obama official Jim Sciutto, and he's been delivering for them ever since. On Monday, Sciutto appeared with what sounded like a blockbuster story. Here's what it was. The CIA, he said, had been forced to spirit an agent out of Russia because the president bungled handling of intelligence and put that agent's life in danger.
This is CNN, home of fake news.
Multiple Trump administration officials with direct knowledge tell me that in a previously undisclosed secret mission in 2017, the U.S. successfully extracted from Russia one of its highest-level covert sources inside the Russian government. Knowledge of the Russian covert source's existence was highly restricted within the U.S. government. According to one source, there was, quote, no equal alternative inside the Russian government, providing both insight and information on Putin. A person directly involved in the discussion said that the removal of the Russian was driven in part by concerns that President Trump and his administration repeatedly mishandled classified intelligence and could contribute to exposing the covert source as a spy.
The CIA is slamming a report by CNN claiming President Trump could have jeopardized a Russian informant's safety.
Yeah, huge story here. The CIA calling it, quote, misguided and inaccurate. Pretty damning response there.
CIA's Director of Public Affairs pushed back hard, calling it misguided speculation that the president's handling of our nation's most sensitive intelligence, which he has access to each and every day, drove an alleged exfiltration operation is inaccurate. Now, you also mentioned the New York Times. They're also talking about this. Former intelligence officials said there was no public evidence that Mr. Trump directly endangered the source. And other current American officials insisted that media scrutiny of the agency's sources alone was the impetus for the extraction. And this report out of CNN, by the way, was fronted and sourced by Jim Sciutto. You probably have seen him on the air. He is a former Obama administration official and a frequent critic of President Trump. Now, I want to make it simple for the people who don't live in the Beltway of Washington. The suggestion that the president may have perhaps compromised the identity and or sources and methods is not a new charge by some on the left. What is new here is you have the New York Times saying it's probably not true.
But the media mobs, their terrible reporting is nothing new. It's just part of a sick pattern of these networks. They go story after story after story after story. Dead wrong, 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 wrong. Never apologize, never revise, extend remarks, never make a correction, never apologize. Just move on to the next obsession. Stormy, stormy. Trump, Trump. Racist, racist. Impeach, impeach. It never ends.
And everyone you talk to in the intelligence community and you talk to journalists, they say this is so irresponsible. If it is partly true or completely false, which it looks like it's completely false, you know, if the New York Times is out there saying that this story is completely false, then that's a huge problem because you have people who are political operatives spreading fake news just to get a narrative out there that is literally putting lives in danger. So I think the whole fake news thing has gotten to such a low. CNN doesn't even surprise me anymore with how low they are willing to go.
Were you impressed with the CNN story by Jim Sciutto yesterday?
It's only impressive in that it is once again an incorrect story from CNN. Jim Sciutto was an Obama operative who had a lot to do with the Russia collusion stories that have since been debunked, and yesterday's was no exception.
Yeah, the CIA then responded.
Put out a pretty damning statement from the CIA Director of Public Affairs, Brittany Bramall, to CNN saying CNN's narrative that the Central Intelligence Agency makes life or death decisions based on anything other than objective analysis and sound collection is simply false. Misguided speculation that the president's handling of our nation's most sensitive intelligence, which he has access to each and every day, drove an alleged exfiltration operation is inaccurate. So, Molly, pretty damning response there. What do you make of that?
It is damning, but again, you know, and it's really damning in the sense that this exfiltration was first offered in 2016 before Donald Trump was president. This has nothing to do with Trump. So why was someone trying to make it sound like it had something to do with Trump? I think it's because you have people who were not careful with the source. The New York Times reports that it had nothing to do with the president, but media inquiries.
CNN can now report that the asset had access to Vladimir Putin, so much access he could photograph government documents on the Russian leader's desk. The Kremlin this morning is now responding to Jim's reporting. Jim joins us up early this morning. I have to say, Jim, remarkable reporting. You broke this hours before anyone else had it, and now you're getting some new information.
Yes, indeed. Basically, it's about how high level this source was. And to be clear, we withheld a lot of these details because we didn't want to risk any chance of identifying this person. And we're holding back others. But the New York Times last night, in confirming our story, gave some details.
What is new here is you have the New York Times saying it's probably not true.
But the New York Times, in confirming our story,
Have the New York Times saying it's probably not true.
U.S. intelligence pulled a very high-level agent to spy out of Russia, in part out of concern the president might somehow blow this individual's cover.
A move driven in part by concerns that President Trump and his administration repeatedly mishandled classified intelligence.
In part because of concerns the president could have exposed the asset. That's really shocking.
But in part because of fears that Trump, the president of the United States, Trump could expose the spy through his mishandling of classified information.
Turns out that's not exactly true. Multiple outlets, including Fox News, reporting that President Trump had nothing to do with it. Instead, the spy was pulled out because of concerns about media reporting around Russia election interference. The decision was also made before Trump even took office.
CIA hardly ever comments on anything.
Let me make this clear. What this fake news mob, what these conspiracy theorists did here, now it's great. It didn't take 2.5 years to expose this huge lie, hoax, and conspiracy. But what they did here is put this guy's family and his life in danger. Why? Well, only they can answer. Seems like the predicate is what it always is. Hate Trump every second, every minute, every hour of any 24-hour day, every week, every month, every year.
Because right now, for places like CNN, it's really choose your own adventure. And if you get some facts that are not correlated or really directly tied to the ultimate conclusion, you just go ahead and make it up. You just go ahead and craft a bridge out of your own intentions, regardless of their truth or falsehood. And that's what's most dangerous. And I think part of it is this desire to bring the president down and really pin something on him because, you know, your intuition is telling you that something is not right. Could be your hurt feelings. However, you know, going ahead and just throwing anything at him, regardless of facts, it's dangerous.
And it's important to note the CIA does not pull an asset based on a single factor, because once the asset is pulled, they can't go back into play, and significantly the asset's remaining network of contacts, in this case Russia, could be retaliated against.
Another bombshell from Jim Sciutto and the geniuses at CNN, just like the last 10 bombshells we were going to bring down the president.
Ask yourself tonight, now, is CNN fake news president Jeff Zucker proud of this political hit job, putting an operative's life in danger? Oh, to help Obama sycophant, this guy Jim Sciutto, whoever he is? When do they ever get held accountable, if ever?
For the CIA to come out and make a public statement debunking this media report, calling it misguided because the story was that egregious. I've never seen that before as far as the CIA coming out. And overall, you got to look at the big picture here. CNN has hired 10 ex-FBI, CIA, or intelligence officials during the Trump administration alone. Their last hire was Andrew McCabe. So who do you believe? The guy who worked in the Obama administration who has gotten stories about Trump and Russia wrong before? Or do you believe the CIA and them making a public statement in a situation where they almost never make public statements in debunking a media story?
But the media mobs, their terrible reporting is nothing new. It's just part of a sick pattern of these networks. They go story after story after story after story.
Right. That's why I called it fake news squared, because not only is it a story that the CIA is denying and that the New York Times is contradicting, and the New York Times is not exactly conservative. If they're contradicting CNN, you know CNN has done something pretty wrong here.
There were reports this week that the CIA had to pull a top Russian asset out because of concerns that his identity could be exposed. Under which administration was this source burned, and is there currently an investigation into how his identity got leaked to the media?
Yeah, I've seen that reporting. The reporting is materially inaccurate. And you should know, as the former CIA director, I don't talk about things like this very often. It is only the occasions when there's something that I think puts people at risk, or the reporting is so egregious as to create enormous risk to the United States of America, that I even comment in the way that I just did. And I won't say anything more about it. I know the CIA put out a statement. Suffice to say that the reporting there is factually wrong.
CNN is fake news. I don't take questions from CNN. John Roberts of Fox.